This is Healthy Souls with Father Nicholas Lowe, helping you to live a Christ-filled life in today's world. Father Nicholas is the pastor of St. John the Divine Greek Orthodox Church in Jacksonville, Florida.
So several weeks ago, we began a sermon series entitled The Book of Daniel. And if you've been part of our church for any period of time, every year we love to do a Bible study as a sermon series to cover a book in the Bible that helps you to make your life practical, to take what you're learning in the Bible and what you're learning on a Sunday morning and to apply it on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And in the past, we've covered books of the book of Galatians, the book of Philippians. You can all find those on our website or on our app. But we started covering the book of Daniel, and just to kind of give you a context of this book, it is found in the Old Testament. And you should know that the Old Testament is not written in chronological order. It's not written based upon the earliest events. It's written based upon themes. So you might begin, the first part of the Old Testament is called, a word that you all have heard about, I'm sure, called the Torah. It's the 5 books of Moses. But then later on is a section called the prophets. And the book of Daniel goes into the prophetical section of the Old Testament. So let me kind of tell you what takes place in the book of Daniel and why it's in the Bible. So the people of Israel lived in Israel. They were very happy. They were very pleased with their life. But God kept warning them, stay focused on me. Keep your life in alignment with what I'm teaching you to be. And at times the people would follow God, and then at times they wouldn't. And God would send prophets to remind them, listen, stay connected to me, worship me only. And time and time again, they fell off the track. Ultimately, God would allow an event to take place to bring about humility. So he allows a man named King Nebuchadnezzar to go. He's the king of Babylon, which is present-day Iraq, to conquer the people of Israel. And when he conquers them, he takes all of the people of Israel who are still alive after this conquering and takes them into Iraq. And there they live as slaves. What you need to know is that Babylon at that time was not a godly country. It wasn't a God-fearing country. In fact, the people at that time were very much pagan. Their lifestyles were very antithetical to what Jesus and what God were teaching. And so in this story, why it's in there is because God puts Daniel there, a godly man living in an ungodly culture. And could it be that all of us today are trying to be godly people, if we're truly honest, in an ungodly world? And so for the last several weeks, we've been covering different themes that Daniel talks about. The theme of having courage in a world that tells you to be quiet and sit down. A theme of being humble in a world that tells you to talk about how good you are. A theme about witnessing your faith when the world tells you, no, just have your faith be private. Don't share it. And then today we're kind of closing out this sermon series. And I want to talk to you today about the power of today. Every day, God gives you a gift. It's the most valuable gift that He can give you. This gift has power. It can influence. It can change things. What is this power that God gives us? What is this gift that God gives you and me every single day? It is the gift of time. And every day God says, hey, St. John the Divine, I'm going to give you some time today. I want to see how you use that time. Are you going to use it for godly ways, where you're putting God first in your life, where you're forgiving people, where you're trying to make a difference in this world, change the life of your family, encouraging them, inspiring them, being leaders in this world? Or are you going to have the worldly ways, where you're kind of letting the world guide your life? I need to make money. Got to worry about my 401k. All about trying to be prideful, all about my own interest. And what we have to recognize is that God is giving you and me the gift of time. There was a study done recently on people who were battling cancer. and they were told they only have 30 days to live. And they asked every one of these patients, the doctors are saying you only have 30 days to live. What would you want to do? We could provide anything that you'd want. What would it be? You would think they might say, well, we want to get the best meals. We want to have steak and lobster every single day. We want to go to Vegas and eat, drink, and be merry. We want to go and let the good times roll. 92% of those patients that were interviewed said all we want is more time. Let me ask you, if tomorrow morning you get up, not trying to be morbid, but trying to be real, and the doctor tells you you only have 30 days to live, what would you do differently? What would you change in your life? What is something that you would do that you're not doing right now? And what would you stop doing that you are doing right now? Because, church family, we are living in the dash between the day that you were born and the day that you're going to die. And what God is telling us is how you invest that time on planet Earth will determine where you live your life in eternity. How you invest that time will determine the dividends you have in eternity. And you should know this, that throughout the Bible, God is saying, hey everyone, God is saying this, hey everyone, time is ticking, time is ticking, time is ticking. And one of the most amazing illustrations of time is found right here in the book of Daniel, chapter 5. And when you came here this morning, you should have gotten a worship guide. Our ushers give these out every single Sunday. If you don't get one when you come in, tell them that I need a worship guide. It's got all the pertinent information that we do in our church. But in the insert has the reading from today, and it's taken from the book of Daniel, chapter 5. It's all about time. All about time. Listen to what it says. But you, Belshazzar. So what you should know is that King Nebuchadnezzar died. His son, Belshazzar, is now the king of Babylon. This is Daniel talking to him. You have not humbled yourself, though you knew all this. Instead, you have set yourself up against the Lord of heaven. See, what Belshazzar had done in the previous chapter was that Belshazzar was having a party. He was eating, drinking, and being merry. He was letting the good times roll, so much so that he was using the chalice and the holy items that were from the Jewish synagogue that when they conquered, they stole from there, using them as drinks that they would drink their wine and be merry. It says, you had the goblets from his temple brought to you, and you and your nobles, your wives, and your concubines drank wine from them. You praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze and iron, wood and stone, which cannot even see or hear or understand. Church family, you should all know that every day you are bowing to something. Some of us may be bowing to gold, money. Some of us may be bowing to the bronze and the silver identity, but you're all bowing to something. And what Daniel is being a prophetic saying, you're bowing to the wrong things. They can't even hear you. But you did not honor God, the God who holds in his hand your life and all your ways. Therefore, and this is perhaps one of the most extraordinary verses in the Bible, okay? He sent a hand, and you're reading that correctly, that wrote this inscription on the wall. Like, let me be a little bit, this is a serious topic, but let me get a little bit happy with you or funny with you. You remember the Addams Family? Remember when they would open that box and that little hand would come out? That's a little bit like this, okay? Just the hand comes up and goes to the wall of this party. It's just the hand. And it starts to write an inscription on the wall. I mean, imagine you're at a party, you're having a good time, you're eating, drinking, and being merry, you're thinking that you got all the time in the world, and then all of a sudden it's like, pause, a hand is climbing on a wall and writing something on the wall. And this is the inscription that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, parsin. Let's say that again. Mene, mene, tekel, parsin. They had no idea what this meant. It wasn't a language that people understood. And what you should know is that Belshazzar would call all of his different dream fortune tellers and all these different interpreters to come and interpret what that mene, mene, tekel, parsin meant. This hand on the wall, and none of them could figure it out. So Belshazzar's wife says, hey, listen, remember that guy Daniel who kind of interpreted Nebuchadnezzar, your dad's dream? Bring him here. Let's see him interpret what this means. And so Daniel comes and he tells them, this is what the word means. Mene means God has numbered your days. There is a beginning and there is an end. Tekel means that you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. What that means is that your life is out of balance. You're allowing the world to dictate your life, your journey. And he's saying, listen to me, your days are numbered, your life is out of balance. God is not first in your life, he's somewhere else in your life. And then Perez means your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Just so you know, the Medes are the Iranians. And if you don't ever or you ever question the legitimacy of the Bible, listen to me, putting faith on the side for a moment. Daniel prophesies about Belshazzar being conquered by the Medes and the Persians. He prophesies that 70 years before it happens. This is a historical event that Babylon would be conquered by the Iranians. 70 years, he's saying this, that it would happen, and it ends up happening. Your kingdom is divided. In other words, if you're not focused on God, if you're wanting different things, if your life is out of balance or out of alignment, you will be divided and you will be conquered. And if you've ever heard that phrase, the handwriting is on the wall, you ever heard that phrase? This is where it comes from. It is this message that is found in the book of Daniel. And the handwriting is on the wall of your heart. And there's two things I want to encourage you about today. How we take advantage of this time that God has given us. Number one, can we make a declaration today that I will put first things first? I don't know about you, but our world and this culture that we live in literally is grabbing at us all the time. Some of us are burning the candle from both ends. Can I tell you, and I preach this to myself, trust me, if you're burning the candle from both ends, you're not going to be that bright. And sometimes we can say, God, I don't hear you. I don't hear you talking to me. Father Nick, I hear this sermon, but I don't hear God talking to me. And can I just tell you that God can't break through the noise that you have placed in this world. But can I tell you this also, that God doesn't have a speaking problem to you. But we do have a hearing problem for Him. And what God says is, keep me first. Don't put anything else above me. Try it in your own life. Put anything you want to, your family, your relationships, your finances. Put any of those things before you, and it will never give you the peace that God says that He can give to you if you keep Him first. So let me challenge you. What is one thing you are doing right now that you need to stop doing to be closer to Him? And what is the one thing that you could say to yourself that I need to start doing right now to put Him first? Number two is once we have put the first things first in our life, that number two is that today we make a declaration that we're going to live our life with purpose. You know, one of the most often used prayers in the Bible, besides the Lord's Prayer, is this prayer. David in the book of Psalms says this over and over again. If you've got nothing else to pray tomorrow morning, pray this prayer. He says this, and always know this, that sometimes you see us holding up our hands and lifting up our hands in prayer. The reason why we lift up our hands in prayer is that's the way Christ, and also we see in the Old Testament how they lifted up and prayed. They never prayed with their hands down. They were either kneeling or they were having their hands out. And so David said this is the prayer that I would tell you about. Lord, teach me to number my days. Teach me that I don't take this day for granted. Teach me that I don't waste the time on this earth. Teach me to know that what you have in store for me, that if I have breath to breathe on planet Earth, that means that you are not done with me. What is that purpose? That purpose is to make a difference in this world. And so before you send out that email, before you post something on Facebook, can we get our face in the holy book? Before we go out and do all the things that we got to do, checking our emails, can we put it through the filter of, is God first in my life? Am I understanding my purpose? We live in a world that is hungry for Christian leadership, and God is saying, who of you is willing to stand up and be the Christian that I need you to be today? We wonder why the world is so polarized. We even hear people and politicians saying we have to slow down the volume. Let's not wait for them, and let's start with us. Let us start with ourselves saying, I have a purpose on this world. I'm not going to waste my time looking at what people are saying or following what someone else said. Let me channel that energy to making a difference in someone's life, because time is ticking. I know I'm preaching, so I'm almost done. I'll leave you with this, and I say this because I love you so much. I spend time on these sermons every week because I want your life to be changed. That every day you are inspired to live a life that's different than what you're living right now. It'd be easy for me not to even give a sermon, but I yearn to change your life through God's grace. I leave you with this. 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Africa on a mission trip to Kenya. And it was an amazing trip. Encourage all of you, if you've never done a mission trip, that you should do this. It was a life-changing moment in my life. We were there with children that were begging for water, and we provide humanitarian support to them. We were in an area where the people were so hungry, but they were so generous that they would not even eat their meal, even though we were providing it, until we had eaten first. There were people that fell in love with Christ, had a passion for Christ that I have never seen before. There are people that would walk 6 miles to church every single Sunday. They didn't take off breaks. They looked forward to their Sunday worship. I came home, man, and I was so elated, so on fire for Christ. 3 days later, I was taking my children to Disney World. I hadn't seen them in a couple weeks, and so I was taking them to Disney World. And as I was driving down to Orlando, I get a phone call. I'm on top of the world. Spiritual life is growing. Not a worry in the world. My sister calls me and she says, Nick, your father has just had a massive stroke. He may not make it, and you need to get home now. So as we were coming back to Jacksonville, I was wearing my clergy shirt and my collar, and I walked into the Baptist South Hospital, and as I entered the hospital, the doctor that was there thought that I was coming there to give my dad last rites. He thought that I was coming in there, so he went up to me and he said, you know, the family is truly distraught. You need to go there and pray over him because he may not pull through. And I share this with you because in that moment, obviously I shared with him that that was my dad, but in that moment, I was thinking about just one more moment with my dad. One more time to say, Dad, I love you. One more time to tell you how much you mean to me. One more time to say how you inspired me to be the man that I am today along with my mom. One more time to simply put my arms around you. Just one more time. By God's grace, my dad pulled through that, and God gave us 3 more years of time to tell him. But can I tell you, church family, time is ticking. Don't take this life for granted. And my encouragement for you, and my challenge for you, is to remember that you are in your dash between the day you were born and the day that you're going to go be with the Lord. That what you said last week was next week is this week. What you said yesterday about tomorrow is today. What you said about the next moment is now this moment. To seize this opportunity and to recognize that how you live out and invest that dash of your life will determine where you live in eternity. How you live your life, God first, living with purpose, will determine where you live in eternity. Why? I'm putting you all on notice. The handwriting is on the wall of your heart.
We invite you to join Father Nick and his wife, Dr. Roxanne Lowe, on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month for their Healthy Minds, Healthy Souls call-in show at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Ancient Faith Talk.